Picture this. You are opening a brand new bakery. You've just landed a massive order for a big party, and you need a custom sheet cake pan that holds exactly 351 cubic inches of cake. But of course, there's a catch. The client has some pretty strict, specific requirements. They say the length of the pan must be exactly the width plus 4 inches, and the height has to be exactly 1/3 of the width. So what should the dimensions of the cake pan actually be? Now you might be wondering why we're talking about baking. Well, it turns out this isn't just a kitchen problem. It's actually a complex polynomial equation hiding right in plain sight. And honestly, without the right mathematical tools, trying to solve this is basically just a frustrating guessing game. But here is my promise to you today. By the end of this explainer, you are going to have an exact step-by-step mathematical toolkit. You'll understand the core concepts, the rules behind them, and exactly how to apply them to crack this bakery case wide open. So, let's dive right in. All right, tool number 1 is the remainder theorem. Think back to basic division for a second. Usually, finding a remainder means grinding through a long, tedious division process, right? Well, this theorem gives us a brilliant, lightning-fast shortcut. It basically says that if a polynomial, f of x, is divided by x minus k, the remainder is simply the function evaluated at k. You literally just plug the number right in. Let's look at how this plays out on paper. Step 1, we use synthetic division to divide our polynomial by x minus k. Step 2, see that final number you get at the very bottom right? That is your remainder, and it's exactly the value of f of k. It is a massive time saver. But let's take this a step further and see how it builds into something even more powerful. Now hold on, I want you to stop and think for a second. Wait, this is absolutely crucial. What if you do all this math, you run the synthetic division, and the remainder turns out to be exactly 0? What does a 0 remainder actually mean in the real world of division? Well, if you're thinking it means it divides perfectly evenly, you hit the nail right on the head. And that perfectly illustrates our second tool, the Factor Theorem. According to the Factor Theorem, k is a 0 of our polynomial function if and only if x minus k is a true, perfect factor. A 0 remainder basically means we found a perfect puzzle piece, letting us break down massive, complicated polynomial equations into much simpler, solvable chunks. But here's a really common roadblock students run into. Where do we even start guessing these possible factors? I mean, we can't just test infinite numbers all day long. Enter tool number 3, the Rational Zero Theorem. Think of this like a lead detective's suspect list. It doesn't tell us exactly who the culprit or the final 0 is, but it gives us a highly specific, narrowed-down pool of possible suspects to interrogate. So how do we actually build this suspect list? It's a really clean 3-step process. Step 1, find all the factors of your constant term. That regular number sitting at the very end of your polynomial. We're going to call this p. Step 2, find the factors of your leading coefficient. That's the number attached to your highest power of x. Let's call this q. Step 3, create a list of all possible fractions of p over q, both positive and negative. Boom, those are your suspects. Let's make this super concrete with a quick mini example. Check out this equation. F of x equals 2x cubed plus x squared minus 4x plus 1. Okay, our constant p is 1. Its factors are just positive and negative 1. Our leading coefficient q is 2. Its factors are positive and negative 1 and 2. Put p over q, and our final suspect list is simply positive and negative 1 and positive and negative 1/2. That's the whole shebang. Instead of checking an infinite sea of numbers, we only have 4 specific suspects to test out using our synthetic division. Now, right about here, I usually get a pretty interesting question from students. Hey, does every polynomial have at least one imaginary 0? Take a second. Think about the numbers you know. What's your gut say? The answer is actually no. And this brings us right to the Fundamental Theorem of Algebra. It states that every polynomial of a degree greater than 0 has at least one complex 0. But, and this is a big but, remember that real numbers are literally just a subset of complex numbers. So a complex 0 doesn't have to be imaginary. It can absolutely be a perfectly normal, everyday real number. However, when we do happen to stumble across imaginary zeros, they follow a very strict rule. It's called the complex conjugate theorem. It tells us that if a complex number with an imaginary part, something like a plus bi, is a 0 of a polynomial with real coefficients, then its conjugate twin, a minus bi, absolutely must also be a 0. They are a package deal, guys. If you find one, you automatically get the other one for free. Okay, we have room for one final incredibly cool shortcut in our toolkit before we get back to baking our cake. Descartes' Rule of Signs. This is a brilliant little trick that counts the possible number of positive and negative real zeros just by looking at how the plus and minus signs change in your equation. No heavy calculation required. You just scan the equation from left to right, counting the sign changes in f of x to find positive zeros and f of negative x to find negative zeros. Let's see how that plays out visually. Look at this grid for a fourth-degree polynomial. Since the highest degree is 4, we know for a fact we have exactly 4 total zeros. If Descartes' rule tells us there are either 2 or 0 positive zeros and 2 or 0 negative zeros, we can map out every single possible combination. Those remaining empty spots, they have to be filled by complex zeros to make sure we always hit that total of 4. Honestly, it's exactly like solving a Sudoku puzzle, but for algebra. All right, our toolkit is fully loaded, so let's bring it all back to the real world. The final quest, our bakery problem. We know volume equals length times width times height. The desired volume is 351. The length is width plus 4. The height is 1/3 the width. When we multiply all of that out, it creates this cubic equation. 1/3 w cubed plus 4/3 w squared equals 351. Let's crack this thing step by step. Step 1, set it to 0 and multiply everything by 3 to clear out those annoying fractions. That gives us a clean w cubed plus 7w squared minus 1053 equals 0. Step 2, we use our Rational Zero Theorem to build our suspect list from the factors of 1053. Now, think about it. A cake pan can't possibly have a negative width, right? So Descartes' Rule of Signs basically gives us permission to only bother checking the positive numbers. Step 3, we test our suspects, numbers like 1, 3, and eventually 9, using synthetic division. And guess what? When we test the number 9, our remainder theorem strikes absolute gold. The remainder is exactly 0. That means, thanks to the factor theorem, 9 is a perfect zero of our function. The exact width of our cake pan is exactly 9 inches. Now we just take that 9-inch width and plug it right back into our original client rules. The length was width plus 4, so 9 plus 4 is 13. The height was 1/3 the width, so 1/3 of 9 is 3. We did it! The final dimensions of the bakery's cake pan must be exactly 13 inches long, 9 inches wide, and 3 inches high to hit that perfect 351 cubic inch volume. So before we wrap up, let's quickly recap what we just did. You just used a highly advanced toolkit to completely dismantle a real-world problem. You used the Rational Zero Theorem to round up your suspect list. You logically used Descartes' Rule of Signs to eliminate impossible negative widths. And you used the remainder and factor theorems with synthetic division to isolate the exact zero that cracked the case. But I want to leave you with a bit of a brain teaser to chew on. What if the bakery's desired volume wasn't a nice, perfect integer? What if the width turned out to be an irrational number? How would we approximate the zeros of a polynomial when our rational zero suspect list just completely fails us? Well, that is a wildly fascinating challenge, and it's exactly what we're going to tackle in our next explainer. So until then,